Go.
Yes.
I didn't know that the chat opens up. That's cool.
Yeah, I've seen that before too. Like when it's like waiting for, it'll actually have like you can start typing in the chat stuff like the podcast that I follow. For Hot Pole Podcast, it's usually like that, where we will chat beforehand. Have some chat window open while they're doing the same thing we were doing, double checking levels and everything else. And I see that we are now live.
Yeah, cool.
So, ready to roll the intro?
Yeah, we're ready whenever you are, and we can start this business.
All right, here we go.
Hello, and welcome to the More About Jesus podcast. My name is Al Martins, and I'm joined by Daniel Dunbar, my cousin, who's the super tech guy. He's the one that makes things sound good, which is good, and you'll get in our banter. You'll understand why a bit more about that. But anyways, thanks for being here. This is the More About Jesus podcast. All we're doing is talking about Jesus. We're reading the Bible to find that out. And both Daniel and I feel a need in our lives to make what we do involving our faith more about Jesus than a lot of other things. It's just like re-looking into what that means to follow Jesus and be a Jesus follower. So how was your last couple weeks?
It's been fairly busy. We had like a snowstorm hit early last week, I think it was. So we had about a foot or 2 feet of snow just about drop.
Yeah, we got part of that, but not all of it.
Yeah, I think we got hit with it. So while BC was getting all the rain and all the flooding, we were actually getting all that precipitation turned to snow for us.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went from like wet, heavy snow down to like minus 19. So, which you guys also got the cold.
Yeah, it's not as cold today, and it's getting a little warmer. But yeah, we had a yikes kind of cold. I don't like it.
Yeah. So and then everybody was panicking as they're bringing in their vehicles for like winter tires.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah,
that's so bad.
Everybody's panicking, and it's just, oh, you got to be kidding me! Like,
and
even I did.
Every year,
even I did. I broke down and bought a set of winter tires for the newer car that we got. So
yeah, I'm thinking I need to get a pair for Gloria's car, but now I gotta wait. I should have done it sooner, but but if I called now, I know it'd be like 2 months into the future that you can get in because everyone booked it. They all panicked.
No, you should still be able to get in.
In Edmonton, maybe. I'm not driving.
Well.
I'm kidding. Yeah, I know. We'll see.
Drive all the way out here just to get some winter tires.
I'm balking at it too. I used to go to the Walmart, but they shut down there because I like cheap tires.
Yeah,
they shut it down. The tire shop in our Walmart.
Yeah.
I have to bite the bullet a little more this time. Yeah, it's winter. Yeah. Anyways, people listening in other places in the world, we do have, I think there was one Filipino listener. There was there's some overseas stuff that showed up in our podcast stats. So that was cool.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
But it might be bots. I don't know. They're definitely not minus 15 or 19. That's for
Yeah. And then this week was earlier in the week, we had freezing rain on top of all this, this snow and ice, and highways got shut down. There was a fatality on the highway just outside of Edmonton. And and people panicked once again for tires.
Yeah, everyone, all the roads out of North Battleford that one day when it was wet and icy. Yeah. Travel not recommended.
Yeah.
For like 2 days.
And now and now we're sitting at like plus 4 degrees, which after like a week of like minus 19, it feels like spring.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. Short weather. We're already used to the cold, so it's like,
Yeah. And then January, we're going to hit
Just wearing a
January we're gonna
hoodie.
hit the January we're gonna hit the minus 35 again, right?
Yeah. All right. Now, I want to talk quickly before we get into the Bible stuff about the Beatles. And
Yes.
because and then I know from your perspective it's going to be cool because so they just released, I guess today, there's 2 episodes of a documentary on the last album the Beatles did in 1970 called Let It Be.
Mm-hmm.
Right when they broke up and stuff. So I don't have to give spoiler alerts here because that's 50 years ago, right?
Yeah, I think they broke up.
Yeah.
and somebody also died at
Plus
some
2 of
point.
them are not with us anymore. But
Yeah.
I was telling my wife today that it's been a long time since I thought that it would be fun to be in a band in the sense of like a rock band. I've been in bands like worship bands and stuff, and that's always really special and that's fun. But when you're young, you dream of being in a rock band. Like I did that when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And I haven't done it again till watching this. So I've watched all the first episode and part of the second. And I thought, man, it'd be fun to be in a band. Just to be even a bass player or something in a band. Mind you, I'm obviously the Beatles are the Beatles, right? But
Yeah.
it got me going, but it was so lo-fi. I read the whole time I'm thinking about you. I'm like, Daniel's got to see this because they got trash, man. Like this is like, and they're bajillionaires. They all have like big houses and stuff already. They're the rock and roll gods. They're whatever. Like they've done it all, and this album was like they barely threw it together.
Yeah.
The crap they had to use George like an 8. They used all the other albums used 4-track recording.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first time they used 8, and it's because George Harrison had bought one, so he brought his from the home to bring it to the studio. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's crazy, right? Because you look at the technology at that time, and that was like, they sound great, and people like the engineers, the recording engineers and stuff had to be really on their game because I've only got 4 tracks that I can record to, or I've only got 8 tracks that I can record to, right? And then you didn't have all the digital stuff that you have right now. It was all through analog desks. I mean, yeah, sure, like the analog desks that were in that studio were amazing analog desks. I think they're all probably Neves, like all built by Rupert Neve. And they sound great. And now we have option paralysis when we actually have stuff happening in the studio because it's it's like, oh yeah, which plugin do I want? Oh, I've got like for reverbs, I've got like about a dozen or so. It's like back then they had one, right?
A button,
or
a knob, or whatever. Yeah,
maybe 2, right? It's like maybe, and if you're really lucky, you had like the EMT plate, which is like a 4-foot by 8-foot plate of steel with pickups and speakers on it. So it sounds gorgeous, right?
Mm-hmm.
But not every studio had those, and so. But I mean, they were really good musicians. It was cool. I watched.
I mean, dang it, they're like. And it's all live, so like there's no doing tracks and like we're used to now. Like, heck, the whole albums are made now in other parts of the world. Like,
yep.
I remember hearing an interview with Rob Halford from Judas Priest. Like when he does his own stuff, his own solo albums, no one ever even meets. This was even before the pandemic. They just one guy lives in Germany and the other guy, and they just throw the tracks together and hand it over to some producer and throw it together and.
Yep.
Crazy.
Yeah. It's pretty rare now to have like a studio that will actually have a full band in to record all at the same time now, right? Because now people how most people want their music, how clean they want it. It's like, okay, we'll lay down a basic scratch track for the guitars, right? Just to get it out there, and then the drummer will play to that. And then a guitar player will play to that, or the bass player will play to that. Okay, now let's get the vocalist in. and then they'll start singing to that, right? And so they're all separate. So you limit your vocal bleed. You limit your microphone bleed, right? Because if you don't have musicians who aren't great at playing, like leveling themselves and mixing themselves, it becomes another mess, right? Because could you imagine like being in a room with a drummer while you're trying to sing vocals and he's bashing away on the drums? You're going to get some of that bleed through.
Somehow they did it.
But they did it. I mean, nowadays everybody's like,
Crazy.
we can separate everything and then put it all back together, easy peasy.
Yeah.
So that's what we've gotten used to, right?
I remember hearing about Johnny Cash's band too, like when they did live stuff. They didn't have monitors or nothing. Like the guys in the back didn't know squat what was going on. They just had to feel it. And then Johnny would change the song. Like he would do it in the studio, even, for Pete's sakes, while they're doing a recording for whatever it was, and they have one chance to do this and limited money. They're doing a song, and he would change up an add a verse or whatever.
Huh.
And they had all these signals. His whole band could look at each other and and nod or whatever, and then just, okay, we're doing this now, and just bizarre. It's a whole nother world.
And they were just a tight bunch of musicians, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably what the difference is, right? Like I even remember my brother when he put out one of his jazz albums. I think it was the Quintessential, the one with the coffee on it.
Yeah, that was the first one I listened to.
Yeah, his live drummer couldn't hack it in the studio. He was great live, but just sort of froze up in the studio, couldn't track it properly. And so they actually hired a session drummer to do all the tracks on it. And the guy came in and did it once, like one shot each song, ran through all the sessions, like ran through all the songs and done. $100 a track. Like, but that's a professional.
Wow.
Right? 10 songs, it's like $1,000. Thank you very much. And then Doug listened back to it and he's like, the guy's playing was so good, he had to go back and re-record his guitar and saxophone parts because he had to up his game because that guy upped his game.
Oh goodness. So,
and then that's how that album came to sound so awesome, right?
Yeah.
So, but everybody tracking their own parts. So their last one that Doug was part of, I think they all tracked it in the same room. They actually were like in somebody's living room and tracked it. So, and that's got a cool groove and vibe to it then, right?
Yeah.
Because then everybody's in the same room. They can play off of each other, and that's sort of what I'd love to be able to do at some point. Is
sounds like we struck your nerd vibe here tonight.
Yeah. Actually, I have my vocal booth set up right behind me here because for a friend's song that's coming out, they needed some vocals for a course. So I banged out 3 harmonies in an evening. So, and then I've opened it up for anybody who wants to come over and add their vocals to it as well. So,
okay, so 10 o'clock good for you tomorrow?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, pop on by. Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Not. Okay. Cool. Now this is where we'd have a commercial if we were gonna have that. So there's no commercials. We have no sponsors. If you want to be a sponsor, that's fine. Probably
the More About Jesus podcast, sponsored by Hair with Heart.
That'd be good. Yeah, that's Daniel's new business. Or did I say Dan?
That's my wife's. That's my wife's salon.
Yeah, I've been following her postings. It's really good stuff.
Yeah, she lets me come out here. So yes, we are sponsored by her.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, we could promote it for sure. Okay, let's get into this. So we're on the last beatitude. It's
the last one.
But I mean, obviously, it's a big sermon. We're going to be doing this all of next year too if we keep this up. But but this
maybe we'll be able to blast through the other ones.
And before we dive into that, I've been thinking that this one really kind of I might get a little, not heated, but I'm kind of passionate about where this is going to be going tonight. Just to give you a heads up. Because when it comes to persecution, it's kind of been a thing that's been going around lately with Christians. But anyway, let's read. I'll read my NLT version and then we'll dig deeper. Matthew 5, starting at verse 10. God blesses those who are persecuted for doing right, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Well, that's the beatitude, and then I'm going to read 11 because it kind of ties in. God blesses you when people mock you and persecute you and lie about you and say all sorts of evil things against you because you are my followers. Be happy about it. Be very glad. For a great reward awaits you in heaven. And remember, the ancient prophets were persecuted in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our thing, persecution.
Yeah, and in the massage, the message, if anybody knew,
yeah, and in case you're not getting our joke,
the massage or the message version. You are blessed when your commitment to God provokes persecution. The persecution drives you even deeper into God's kingdom. Not only that, count yourselves blessed every time people put you down or throw you out or speak lies about you to discredit me. What it means is that the truth is too close for comfort, and they are uncomfortable with that. You can be glad when that happens. Give a cheer even. For though they don't like it, I do. And all heaven applauds. And know that you are in good company. My prophets and witnesses have always gotten into this kind of trouble.
Was that one phrase there that made me laugh? Give a little cheer about it.
Give a cheer. Yeah. I like how it says that. It's like, what it means is that the truth is too close for comfort.
Yeah. Now that's, wow.
That's why they're persecuting you, because the truth is just a little bit too close for comfort.
So now I'm gonna ask you, what can you think of nowadays that's persecution? Like, can we even compare what? Because so now these people were killed. They were thrown to the lions and stuff like that. And there are parts of the world where people, if you follow Jesus, like in China, they'll put you in jail or whatever spot.
China,
like they still gotta be secretive.
Most of the Middle East, right? Most of the Middle East, Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, anywhere there's a heavy Islamic or Muslim presence, especially radicals. If you become a Christian, you'll be killed.
Yeah, or proclaim it or whatever.
Yeah.
If you're secretive, I guess you could probably get away with it. But.
Yeah. And that's it's unfortunate, but it happens.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
But they should give a little cheer.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
I don't know if
you know what?
I don't think they feel that way necessarily.
They probably don't, but I think that because I was listening to one podcast where they're saying, like, he was doing a talk with people in Greece, and some of the people that were there are people who fled from Iraq to Greece because of the oppression that was happening. And then they became Christians while in Greece. And then they went back to Iraq. Like, they decided that, you know what, this is worth dying for. This is worth telling my family back home about.
Yeah.
That Jesus and the redemption story is worth me risking my life to go back there. Right. And they videotaped his talk, and he's like, so what would happen? And they're like, well, because we videotaped it and then we broadcast it all over Iraq, Turkey, Iran, your picture is probably on a wall somewhere saying, we got to kill this guy, even though he's an American.
Wow.
Right. And so he's like, oh, okay, well, I guess.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I haven't looked up a lot of these stories. I see them intermittently, but we don't focus on them out here. in
No.
North America. We're not all that interested in what other churches or what I guess our brothers and sisters around the world are going through, or
Yeah, we
necessarily
tend
even helping them.
yeah, we tend to be very self-centered here in our North American culture, because it's like, okay, what kind of persecution would we have? People are going to call us names,
Yeah, I know. And see,
poke fun at
and
us.
that's kind of why I wanted to get that out of the way first, because we don't have persecution. That's what I'm flat out saying. There's zero here.
It's
I
yeah.
don't think there's, you can't, it would be offensive and
Well,
disrespectful to people that are in other places that are risking their very lives
yeah,
to say in our culture that we
yeah,
are teased, made fun of, bullied. That's not necessarily
not
the
necessarily
same. Like, it can't
persecution.
be put in the same category, I don't think. And
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean, we
think
might.
that's what Jesus is necessarily even talking about, what we go through at all.
Yeah, and I mean, Jesus. I mean, here in North America, you might lose your job, right? You might, depending.
Yeah, but you have
If you are,
recourse. Like, if I
if you
went
are,
to,
yeah,
if I took that to court, then at least I could fight that. Where in other places they would just shoot you or whatever. I mean, I
yeah,
could fight and say, hey, no, I have rights here. I have a right to practice whatever religion I want. And
yeah, and even uh, well, now you have cancel culture, right? Which is sort of pushed by the more left wing um, people, and they really take a hard stance against religion and especially Christianity. And so, if you start speaking out against them too much, they will try to get your social media destroyed. And that's what they mean by canceling, right? Is that they are going to destroy everything that every platform that you have, they're going to try to get rid of, right? So whether it be YouTube,
it's actually
blogs,
not even a
posts,
liberal conservative thing anymore. It's both sides that
yeah,
there's people that do that. Yeah.
I think it's a God Satan thing.
Could be.
I'm just going to put it out there. It's just like, if you're against God, I guess which side are you on?
No, what I'm saying is I've seen conservatives like canceling liberal views and liberals canceling, like they, instead of a mature
Yeah,
discussion through things, we were polarized.
very
And
polarized.
yeah, and I don't, the polarized stuff drives me nuts.
Yeah,
But
and that's why I'm just like, Jesus came here and he's like, you know what? Just love each other,
yeah, and we work
and that's what
together.
we're supposed to do.
We all need each other. Anyways, okay, persecution. Getting back to it, I um well, and I should promote it quick too, because there's a blog now that goes along with this podcast that I'm going to use once in a while just to kind of rehash stuff. I'll take the stuff we say and discuss and throw it together after we do a few episodes and collect my thoughts and put something out there for people to read. And I wrote one about this. Um, I really don't think. Well, I started thinking about what does persecution mean in our context. So obviously we're not the same as people in Muslim countries and all that, but where will we receive persecution? It will actually be from the same people that did it in Jesus' time. So who persecuted the early Christians for the most part?
Oh, that was the church.
Yeah, that was
That was
the Jews, the Jewish
yeah.
leaders. That was, so
That
those are
was
the people that killed Jesus and
that
killed
was
the,
Saul,
yeah.
who
So
turned
he
out
was
to
the,
be Paul.
yeah, exactly. He was the ringleader. And so I think when Jesus was telling him that, that's who he meant. He knew that these men, because he had already seen it, and those were the ones that were going to kill him.
Yeah,
So what I'm seeing nowadays is Christians who think that the government is the one persecuting him, and I get a little frustrated, I'll be honest, when so the government is imposing regulations for COVID. In provinces it's different, in Canada or whatever, and now they're putting things in place like in Saskatchewan where you can't go to a restaurant unless you prove you're vaccinated and stuff like that. And they're jumping to equating it with Nazis right away. It's communism and it's Nazis. That's where they jump to, and then they call it persecution of their faith and what they believe and their rights. And I think
Yeah,
it's insulting myself. I think it's offensive to even go there.
Yeah, I don't want to touch too much on the whole vaxing, non-vaxing.
Yeah, that's not an argument I want to, because
that's
people can choose for themselves, and I
It's
really
it
believe
is
that.
yeah.
But I also believe that we have to have some rules in a society to protect people. And so
Yes.
if people set up rules, maybe you don't like them, but it's definitely not Hitler. Like, maybe go watch some documentaries. Like, that was pretty atrocious. Like, killed millions of people. He tried to eliminate a whole race, like a whole group of people.
He tried to kill God.
Yeah, yeah. And so that's really bad.
Yeah.
But what we're dealing with, like,
in Hitler's view, he's like, well, if God is Jewish, then if I kill all the Jews, I kill God.
Yeah. Well,
When
all
he breaks it
kinds
right
of
down.
things. The whole thing with the super race and all that was ridiculous. But I mean, so, I mean, I don't get how people can even go there, and I don't want to rip anyone down or anything, but
No,
persecution itself,
yeah,
as I'm seeing it, is when Christians are trying to move their faith or move into something else. Right now, it's people that are in my boat who are somewhat deconstructed or reconstructed, whatever you want to call it, working out their faith in different ways than they're used to and moving away from church. Some people use the term ex-evangelicals and all that stuff, and I don't care about labels. I'm just a guy that's trying to work out more about what my faith means.
Yeah.
And I'm not scared to face some things and tear apart some things that I believe traditionally, but I don't want to throw it all out by any means.
No,
but
absolutely.
The persecution for someone like me comes from other Christians, churchy people that where I was. And I'll be the first to admit that I was that guy too. For a lot of years. I just think it's an element we can't disregard in this, is that you can expect persecution from what should be actually the people that support you the most. Is that legit?
Sometimes it can be that way, because the other thing is, like, if we're looking at the season that we have right now throughout the pandemic, everything has become polarized, and every nerve is raw, and churches have been torn down, right? And right now they're hurting. And
totally, yeah.
Because we weren't allowed to gather and stuff like that. And then people are thinking everything is going to go back to the way it was. And I actually was reading an article by Carrie Newhoff, who our pastor's actually gotten us hooked onto. And he's saying that, you know what, you can't expect everything to go back to the way it was. Why did people leave the church when the pandemic hit? Right. And why aren't people coming back is kind of his viewpoint. Is like, let's look at this. And it came down to maybe your 2 hours of Sunday isn't enough to compel people to come back. Maybe there's something more. Maybe Christmas is something more. The quote from Dr. Seuss, right? Maybe it doesn't come in boxes and bags and worship songs and you know, fiery sermons or non-fiery sermons. Maybe we do need to be preaching more fiery sermons and actually changing people's lives, right? I mean, it's better to change their lives than to placate them, right? And then they just people are now really comfortable at having pajama church. Right, you get to sleep in on Sunday morning. You don't have to get ready, and then you can just tune into whatever church you want. Right? I mean, during was it smallpox? What was the big one back? Spanish flu.
Yeah.
So the big one that happened back then was the Spanish flu that happened 100 years ago, But then people came back to church when they were allowed to, because there was no other place for them to get God's word.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah, that's
There
right.
was no internet. Like, how many church, like, I can remember at the height, right? I mean, even 20, 30 years ago, like, the internet was in its
Say it
infancy.
isn't so.
20, 30, 40 years ago, my goodness. Right. And then so we're looking now, it's like I can remember some of the first few months of lockdown. Right. I would watch about 3 to 4 different sermons on a Sunday.
Yeah, I've
Because I
watched more
could.
sermons than ever.
Because I could. So now I
Yeah.
can pick and choose which church I want to attend.
Yeah.
Virtually. And for somebody like me who's a bit more of an introvert, I could survive off of that, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If Sunday to you was gathering information,
yeah,
and singing music, then I don't need to go anywhere for that.
Yeah.
I could see the best preachers in the world right in my kitchen or computer, anywhere I want, and I can listen to the best music. I got Spotify.
Yeah. But here's the thing.
There's no community, zero.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where's your personal community? The people who are going to be there next to you, face to face, challenging you on things.
Yeah. See, and that's the thing,
praying
that
for you, praying
wasn't
with you.
happening in church, though, and that's the difference.
And that's what should be happening.
Exactly. See, now what I'm saying is, if you work towards that in your community, in your church, you will find that for the most part, people don't want that. They want the service that makes them feel good and do the thing. Maybe challenge them even. I'm not saying they're all bad or don't have a good heart or anything like that. But the level of corporate intimacy is not there in order to really build and do the things that need to get done to help people. That's my experience. It might not be that in every church. But
because I was going to challenge you on that, because I would say, like, the churches that have been growing since have been the churches that are doing that, because people are like, you know what, I want to make sure that this is real.
They know they need each other.
That's right. And so that the churches that are actually pushing that are the ones that are growing. Right. Because I can remember, like, the first Sunday that we got back to that we had an in-person service. Leading worship that day was awesome. Right. We didn't have the huge amount of people that we normally have. We had like 20 people, but still, it was just like, for me, it was the most impactful thing. Just being allowed to lead worship in front of people who haven't been able to corporately sing all together at the same time. And that was just like, that's, you step into that and it's like, okay, God put me here for this, to do this. Right.
Yeah.
And so seeing some of the churches that are growing, it's because they're doing it. Right. And it's not just the big flashy churches, like some of the churches, like they're preaching and
it's the medium flashy churches.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. See, and I wish, this is why I want to build community here, because I want to hear from people. I have one perspective and one set of experiences, and I want to hear other people's experiences and build a community. And we can do that virtually here, but it's not as good as doing it in person, obviously. And the pandemic's put a real wrench in my gears, because I'm a good hugger. It's one of my prime gifts, is to do those things. And it stinks that you can't do that stuff.
And I don't see why not, because I mean, you look at okay, if we're going to talk about, you see like protests happening outside, people standing shoulder to shoulder, yelling and screaming with no masks on and stuff, and yet we can't hug in a church. I've seen pictures of raves and concerts and stuff happening, and people are all dancing around and no masks or whatever, right? Or very few masks and shoulder to shoulder. yet we can't hug in church. Oh, come on. I mean, at the same time, I want to respect other people's boundaries. If they do not want to be hugged, I
Oh
won't
yeah.
hug them.
Oh no, I
Right?
don't. I don't ever assume. You have to
Yeah.
learn that, because there's people that don't ever want to be hugged by anyone ever.
Yeah. Oh, and even now
Pandemic
there's
or
people.
not.
Yeah. There's even people like who are not comfortable with it. Like, even though they would hug before and stuff, it's like you still have to ask them. It's like, is it okay? Can we hug or whatever? And so yeah, you have to. So Brandy says she's a hugger too. She totally is.
Oh, come on, girl. I know it. Yeah, huggers are good. We're a special breed. Okay, so what are the reasons? I wanted to ask this for doing for being persecuted. Why are they being persecuted? Why would we be persecuted? It's for, basically, to put it really simple, for doing what's right. So like blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. I'm applying this to all the things we've looked at. So
yes.
if I'm hungering, thirsting for righteousness, if I'm working towards peace, if I'm doing all those things, then that's going to cause persecution. We can expect it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, you look at so this is getting into who's in charge, Jesus or Satan. And that's why you're going to be persecuted, because the world, Satan pretty much runs the world. And so we're looking at that, and anything that we do to help promote the kingdom of God is not promoting the kingdom of this world. So you're going against popular opinion as well. You're going against warmongering, profiteering, greed, lust, everything. Our human nature, basically, you're going against human nature, because our human nature wants to do all those things. It's not in our DNA, I guess you'd say, to do this, right? This is going against human nature and trying to become more God in nature, or more like Jesus in nature. And that's probably why he rubbed everybody the wrong way in his time, in Jesus's time, because he was trying to show them that the kingdom wasn't what they thought it was going to be. They thought the kingdom was going to be a physical manifestation. They thought that
they were looking for
wanted
power.
war.
Yeah, they wanted power and war.
Yeah, they were like, "Oh, great, we can go and take out the Romans."
Yeah.
Jesus is like, no. Give unto Caesar what Caesar, give unto God what's God's.
See, and I've seen that in modern day church. That's what scares me. It was most obvious in the States in the last years with Trump in charge, because the church latched onto him, certain evangelicals, and as their guy, and it's like all guns and like America, and now as Christians we have the power, political power, and really that's the opposite of what I think a Jesus follower should look for power. It's not in those things. So, but we're no different in Canada, don't get me wrong. I think there's a whole segment of evangelicalism that might be thinking that it'd be preferable if we had the government on our side, where Jesus is like, give to Caesar what's Caesar's, whatever. Like, that's those aren't the things he was interested in. He's like, my people followed these things. So he's setting it forth in this sermon, and it starts off with these beatitudes, like, okay, we're looking for peace. We're not looking to, but you know what? When you do these things, it's going to rub a whole lot of people wrong. And I just expect it from everywhere now, to be honest, when you say things. One of the most obvious I see at work is we haven't covered it yet, but we'll get to it, is lusting. I think so many men are just completely, they don't struggle with lust. They're happy to lust. Lust is part of their life. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And when you block against that and say, no, I'm not interested or whatever. No, I don't want to look at your phone.
Yeah.
It's going to show me some trash I don't want to see. Well, why not? How I roll, man. And
Because I love my wife.
you get railed. It's
Yeah.
just, there's not everyone, but there'll be guys that are bold enough to make fun of you and laugh at you and just not believe you and all kinds of things. But
Mhm.
yeah, no, sorry, I don't think about having sex with every person I see. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's such a anti-society thing. Like, people just think it's crazy. But am I persecuted? I don't know. I'm just
Oh, they're making fun of you.
mocked or teased or whatever. So it's not quite the same, but
You're getting mocked and teased, Al.
yeah.
You're getting mocked and teased.
Indeed. But anyway, it's for doing what's right, standing up for the lesser, for working for peace, for being meek. All those things are the ones that might trigger this persecution. And it's for being like Jesus, for Jesus' sake. It's not, that's a clear thing in the passage. It's not because you're a jerk. Maybe sometimes you're just a jerk and you deserve some, you're doing all the Jesus things and being persecuted. That's I think we have to make that distinction, because if you're a arrogant, bossy Christian who's going around yelling at people and bashing their heads with a sign, if someone fights back,
maybe you'd, yeah. I was gonna say, maybe if somebody punches you back, I think you deserved it.
yeah, maybe you're just being a jerk there, but that might not be persecution. But like an example with Love Thy Nerd, part of the inspiration for that ministry was to help nerds, because there's always a group of Christians at every comic convention and stuff. I should say Christians, that church people that go with big signs to make sure everyone at the con knows they're going to hell.
Yeah.
Because they play Dungeons and Dragons or whatever.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's things like that. So Love Thy Nerd reaches out to those people. So now you're getting some pushback for that. It's just probably because you're being a mean person.
Mm-hmm.
Randy has a comment. Because you're standing up for what is right and Jesus is there standing. Yeah, it's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and we are the hands and feet of Jesus in the world. Okay, now, another thing. It's important to mention this thing about the prophets, too. And, because they were the ones that, and what did prophets in the Old Testament do? They called out the sins of the people, right? So their job was, when what was happening amongst God's people didn't line up with what God wanted, they call them out. So we do, obviously we like to think of the predictions and all that stuff, but that's really not what their job was. Their job was to get people back on track. Hey, God's saying do this. Like, you don't, there's going to be consequences, and they would predict that. But for the most part, they're just like, hey, here's your way out. This is the way. Come on, you guys, get on track. I think
Samuel did that with David quite a bit, right?
Yeah, and they hated him and they killed him. So, but if I'm a Jesus follower, I don't, and we probably have differing ideas about roles and gifts and those things, which is fine. And I'd love to talk about that one day, but we're not on that track right now. But I think each of us probably has this role to call things out like that. Like, we should be comfortable with someone in our community of Christians, whether it's in a church or something else or home group, calling something out when someone has the wrong attitude. It's something not Christ-like. They should be able to say, you know what, I don't see that as Christ-like, or I don't see that as.
Yeah, and hopefully they don't take it the wrong way.
Yeah, well, you don't want to offend people, but what did prophets, like, did they go into this thing, oh, these people are going to be pissed, I probably should wait, That's
true,
so
right? I mean,
did they think that? I don't know. Like, Jonah obviously ran away from it. He's like, yeah, I'm going to Nineveh. No problem. Going to Nineveh because I'm going to get killed. I'm going to go there to get killed, because all the prophets were killed for calling people out.
Yeah, Nineveh's that way.
Yeah, okay, going the other
I'm
way.
going that way.
And we'd all do the same. We always act like he's such a joker, but he was probably pretty smart to do that. How?
He's like,
Yeah, no.
And
But
then God's
so
like, okay, no, I'll take you there by force. Thank you very much.
yeah. So what do
Here's
we
a
do
giant.
now?
Here's
Do
a
we
giant fish whale.
we call things out? We can act. If you do that, I'm just saying, expect some pushback.
Yeah,
It might not be persecution and all that, so it's not going to be the same way. But obviously, for the guys he was talking to, they called out the religious leaders like Jesus did. Jesus said, "Hey, you guys are all like dead inside. You're a bunch of useless teachers that no one wants to listen to anymore. Just go away already." And
I think
get with a new
so
concept, and then they killed them, and then they.
I don't think it's so much about the useless, is that they became power hungry, and dictating how things were instead of I mean because
way off track with what God was trying to do.
Yeah, God wanted community with the world, with his creation, right? Because that had been broken in Adam. Like if we're going to go way back. So that got broken in Adam, and all throughout the Bible, he's trying to restore a right relationship once again with people, like a personal relationship. And the best that he could do at the time was through the priests, but then the priests start making it a business, and that's why that's why Jesus like fashioned a whip,
flipped the tables,
and drove them out because they figured out how to make it into a business.
That'd be an artifact, if you could find that whip.
Yeah, exactly, right. I'm sure there's about 500 whips out there that are saying this was the whip that Jesus used. Right? The whip of Jesus, sort of like the cross of Christ. If they actually gathered up all the splinters that say that these are the actual artifacts of the cross of Christ, I was like, well, that's one huge cross now. I remember that from like old Western civilization 12 or something like that days. And it's like, yeah, okay. But then even looking, I read an article that somebody had wrote about, I forget who it was that wrote it. It may have been one of the Carey Nieuwhof things, because I get those like daily. I get an email from them daily. And Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King, but Martin Luther, who wrote the 99 rules or whatever it was, and the thesis, and nailed it to the thesis, right?
Yeah.
So he was going against the Catholic Church at the time, because the Catholic Church became the power, and they had taken away God's grace and God's mercy in a sense, right? And they're like, the only way to get forgiveness of sins is through a priest or through a bishop or something like that.
Or paying money to see Mary's underwear or whatever the heck artifact they had.
I don't know. I'm not Catholic. I'm not going to profess to know everything. And then Martin Luther,
looked into the Reformation came against that stuff.
And he didn't want to abolish the Catholic Church. He wanted to help it become grace and mercy filled once again. He loved the Catholic Church. It was part of his upbringing and his teachings and everything, right? So he really wanted them just to like, hey, let's get back into right relationship with God. Let's make it so that people can actually have a personal one-on-one connection again with Jesus. And I would say that they persecuted him, and that's how the whole Protestant movement came about, was because of this. So there's that.
There's people like that, and so I guess I have that part in me, or I'm missing a piece, I guess, that makes me stop to think before I call things out. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm not big on looking into what gifts or what, but if you wanted to peg something on me, it would be prophet, because I like to do that, calling things out. But I definitely don't predict the future.
Brandy's got a good point about, if you are going to call something out on somebody, and it's like, her comment is, I think having a relationship with the person is so important, so that the connection comes out of love. Or the correction. The correction comes out of love.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I got really tiny writing on my screen. So
no, that's true. Like, because if you're confronting one person, for sure. Like,
Yeah.
if you're calling out, like the church in large C church general, or those kind of things, or calling out, I've done with men, like in general, men, like, hey, because I fight for the rights of women in society, then it's like it's not personal, but people, I guess, still will take it personal. But definitely, if you're, I'm not always that comfortable talking one-on-one with someone too about their faults. Usually I just wait for them to bring it up. it'll happen but that, mind you, I'm also not that, I don't have many close friendships where I can do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what she was getting at, was the fact that you need to have a close personal. You need to know the people, right? If you're gonna correct somebody on what they're doing, you need to know them. You can understand where they're coming from, or you can pretty much what the reaction's going to be. But you still need to have that conversation, because sometimes it's wrong. Sometimes the conversation that you're having with them in your head in order to correct them will actually go a different way. And I would say that if before you do something like that, pray, like get
Oh, for sure.
your heart right with God about this. Are you doing this out of selfish ambition, or what, right? So you have to have your heart sort of right in you can't just be going off
You
half
can't
cocked,
just
right?
be angry.
No.
That's for sure. Yeah, I mean, if you're just a grumpy person that wants to yell at everybody, that's just the wrong reason.
Yeah.
Like some of the things, one of the ways I started changing, I'll just say it's quick and then we got to move to one more thing. I still remember sitting in church, and I knew of about 4 or 5 people in the service that Sunday that were dying inside. Like whether it was from mental illness or from a broken relationship or something, I could see it in their face. I'm an empath, so I can feel those things. And then I was sitting there through the announcements, looking at these people, like the 20 minutes of announcements, and thinking, what are we doing for these people? How is this helping these people? How is this a place of refuge for these people? A place where they can heal and all that? Because we're literally singing some awesome songs, which are cool, but not if you're the person that's life is falling apart. Maybe there's some that don't do that, but they just stand there, look on their face like they're broken. And then we do 20 minutes of announcements, and then we fill them full of biblical information. Everyone says, how you doing? And we're good. And then they leave. And what have we done to help them? They're dying.
Yeah.
They're falling apart. And so that's when I started calling that out. I'm like, I just have this passion, and I felt God leading me. And I'm like, what can we do to develop intimacy in our meetings? Because this is cool and all, and it's great. And we've done this for 2,000 years or whatever, according to some people. But I don't know. Is there more?
Absolutely, there's more. I mean,
And so
you cannot.
I know it can happen, but this was my experience. And I'm like, so this is where I felt like I needed to call that out.
Yeah. I mean, because you can't fix people's lives in 2 hours.
No.
That has to be a relationship that you have with them more than just on a Sunday morning. Right? You got to get to know these people. Have them over for dinner.
So I'm not saying the service is wrong. I'm just saying we got to do more than that. And somehow it has to be, that has to be the plug-in area where you come in to, get back to what we're doing. But I mean, maybe take them off and talk to them, pray with them, something. I don't know. It's got to be something.
Yeah, like or like Dietrich Bonhoeffer, Life Together, right? You got to get in the trenches together. You got to get dirty together. You got to figure this out together. It's life together.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so one quick thing. Can we really be glad? Be very glad? What was the message? Give a little cheer. Not little.
Yeah.
I just
Even
keep
give
saying
a little
little.
cheer.
Just woohoo.
Whoa.
Rejoice. And I don't know, maybe that translation's so far, but be glad. So is can we really be happy about persecution? If it's really like, I guess maybe our people, I think of Stephen being stoned to death in
Yeah.
Acts, and they're
He saw the
so
glory of
mad.
God, right?
Yeah, he's like, I see the glory, I see the Jesus sitting at the right hand of the Father, and they're all
And
like
then he
so
started to
livid.
glow.
Yeah, and they're so mad, they're just smashing his head in with rocks. They're so mad at him. And he's just
Yeah.
happy. He's like, hey, I'm good with this.
Yeah.
I'm on my home.
I'm on my way home. Right. And but we get so comfortable in our lives.
Yeah.
I can remember a story that one of my mentors had said. So one of his friends, he had been captured in the Middle East and was I mean hardcore persecution where they would actually take them in the heat of the day and they would strap them into the desert. Like they would have them pegged in the desert, like strapped down,
wow.
Throughout the heat of the day, right? And this guy, all he could think was worship songs that he knew as a kid, and that was it. And every once in a while, a bird would fly by.
Like rolled away, rolled away.
Oh, but this bird, when it would fly by, would actually cast a shadow on him. And so he would get like a little reprieve from the sun, right? And so so because they were given like no water and just out there to bake in the sun, and every once in a while a bird would fly by while he was singing worship songs and just give him a little bit of a reprieve. And he found joy in that, to be in the fact that God would send him a bird just to give him a little bit of a reprieve with some shadow, right? So
I don't know. I think I'm not there, but I'm not saying that God can't work that in our lives. But it sounds like Jesus is making it a choice, right?
yeah,
That always scares me, because it's like, okay, hey, just be happy about it, because they treated the prophets this way too, and they're all good. I'm like, yeah, but they all got like killed and stuff. So really,
but we all got to die.
that's true.
We're all infected with death. So
I think what we need to is I'll let you can say what you think is but I want to sum up for me with the doing what is right. So all these beatitudes together are about living the right life for God. Like, it's all about, you will, when you're in the right place and your relationship with God is right, you do the right things to follow his ways. And hey, if you're doing that boldly, that might involve calling some things out, that might involve rubbing some people wrong, but don't do it like an angry person. Just rejoice, like, hey, well, and maybe someone will persecute you, maybe someone will argue with you or fight with you, just like, whatever, I'm just going to keep doing my thing. You got a problem with me loving people, sorry. And you're like, oh, how could you not have a gun? Well, I'm kind of into peace right now, so I think I don't want a handgun because I'm not interested in killing people. So that's how I interpret the not being a warmonger. Sorry. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not gonna be grumpy about it, I'll just be me. To me, that's what I'm getting out of this. It's not necessarily to be Mr. Prophet and call things out. It's not to be Mr. Mopey, like, oh, I'm so persecuted. It's like, okay, you know, there's going to be pushback if I'm living like Jesus, but I'm going to stay happy about it. I mean, as far as that part of my life, I'm going to just do my best to move forward and enjoy. Something you want to take from this for sure? Just for posterity, well, I'm writing it down.
Okay, for posterity, I'm writing it down.
I don't even know what posterity means.
Neither do I.
It just sounded cool.
It's got like 3 syllables in it. I'll have to look it up. So,
Teeth, 4 syllables.
4 syllables. Yeah, it's got more than 3 syllables. I'll definitely have to look it up. Yeah, I'm a pretty simple dude, and yeah, so I like to live fairly simple truths. So today, actually, in preparation for this, because we're wrapping up the Beatitudes, I listened to the last episode of The Chosen, where Jesus talks about the Beatitudes.
Oh yeah, it's season 2 or whatever. Yeah.
Season 2, the very last episode, and he's telling Matthew about the Beatitudes, but he's like, okay, because he goes up to Matthew, he's like, I think I know how I want to start this sermon. And Matthew's like, what? It's like, it's a map. And I didn't catch that the first time that he said it. It's like, it's a map. And so then he takes Matthew and he tells him about the Beatitudes. And he goes through all of them. And then Matthew looks at him and he's like, how on earth is this a map? And Jesus was like, you know what? It's not going to be plain for people. I want my followers to dig in to find out what's actually happening, to find the truth in the words. Says, this is a map. If you are looking for me, look for these people. Look for the poor. Look for the meek. Look for the peaceful, right? Look, if you go through all the Beatitudes, look for those people, because that's where Jesus is going to be. And I was like, wow, I never got that before. And, not saying that The Chosen is like theologically correct or anything, but that hit me. I'm like, that's who we should be looking for.
Yeah, I mean, right? Obviously, we don't know if Jesus said it's a map, but I think it's fair to say that that's what it is. Like, his teaching was on purpose. I don't want to use the term vague, but it was like he used like parables and stuff. Like, what does this even mean? And you're gonna have to think about it, and the eyes of the Spirit are going to direct you. So he's anticipating a time when the Holy Spirit will be involved with drawing people to the right way of thinking, the right way of living. And so that's why I love this, what we're doing, because we're working through this. And I think this is, while I think that, studying original documents and all that stuff is super important, and understanding all the context, I still think that it's really important for us to hash things out just as brothers and sisters with the Spirit connecting us, because the same Holy Spirit in me is the same Holy Spirit in you. I think we can learn from each other that's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
Understanding Jesus better. It's a map.
It's a map. And look for Jesus there, right? I mean, look for Jesus in the poor, in the meek, in the humble.
Yeah.
Because it's Jesus, as you said, I'll be right there. And yeah, I mean, our men's Bible study that we have at our church, we're actually going through Mansfield's Book of Manly Men. Now, you as someone who is egalitarian or a feminist, however you want to say it, it might be like, Christian, wait a second.
You could say Christian feminist, because
Christian feminist, because we'll soften it down a little bit, right? But
that's what I would call myself.
Okay. And then so we're reading this book, and right away he's like, now most feminists might be offended by this book, but trust me, by the end of it, they'll actually be agreeing with it, because what it is, it's like men will fight for women and women's rights and stuff. But to be a man is to do things. Men do things. We don't sit around and discuss it all the time. We'll actually go out there and do the things, right? Like the fame, like when you think of like famous men in history and stuff like that, they did things. They didn't sit in committees. So, maybe we got to take that point in our churches as well, like in our personal lives and churches as well, to stop just chatting about what we should be doing, but actually doing it.
Yeah.
So looking for Jesus in these areas, looking for Jesus in these people.
Poor and hungry people don't need our thoughts and prayers. They just need food.
You feed them, like
and
you
a
said
new and a
earlier.
new coat.
Oh, look at
Yeah.
that. Tied into like one of our first episodes.
Ba-dum-bam. Look at that. Okay, that's all
Dun,
we can
dun,
do.
dun.
We can't go on too long. We're already over an hour, but that's all right.
Yeah, and
Well, no, I guess that's just
we've
the
got to
stream.
do things.
Yeah. So, questions or comments, anything you want to be part of this discussion, you have a lot of options. If you want to be old school about it, just send us an email, moreaboutjesus21@gmail.com, and I'll answer that and I'll get you connected somehow. We're on Twitter at moreaboutjesus3. We're both on Twitter ourselves. All these kind of links, though, are in wherever you see podcasts. So on the page on Spotify or in Apple, there's links. And now we have a blog, so if you where I've put those, but it's on our Discord anyway too. I love Discord, but I'm not going to try jamming it down anyone's throat. I think it's great, but that's a community building place. And the blog will just be something I use once in a while. But you can also listen to the podcast there. And of course, YouTube. So if you're watching this live on YouTube, for being here. Also, if you're listening to it via podcast, we have YouTube. So check out More About Jesus podcast on YouTube, and you can actually be here when we do it live and be part of the discussion. Need more people there. No, we don't. We have the two most important people in our lives are in the chat right now.
That's right. And for the it's for the low admission price of 1 like.
Yeah, 1 like. All you have to do is click.
All you have to do is click.
Now, I haven't said it before, but I will say that before we go. Yeah, if you're on Apple, like, just give a rating and stuff like that. And it's not for us. We're not out to get viewers, and we even prayed about that before we started tonight. We're not doing this to be popular or get views or likes or any of that. But if you do that stuff, then we can build our community, and then we can have more people talking about Jesus, making their lives more about Jesus, which is what this is about. So that's the only reason. Because I got zero money. I think there might be ways, but I'm not interested in that.
No. We're both working guys. We're not going to get rich off of this.
Yeah, no, not at all. Well, my beard, if it's long, I don't know.
No.
Maybe I can use this to tie into a beard oil company, and yeah.
Maybe we should need some hair growth, as both of us are like scalped. Oh. Yeah, that's right. We need keeps. We need keeps to come on, but
it'll
that's
start
only
growing slowly, and as the years progress, like maybe year 3, we'll just have this full head of hair. Ooh. We're like, hey, you watch? See, we've been using this special growth thing, and
I've just been using the stuff from a chia pet. It's gonna start growing like asparagus sprouts on the top of my head,
all right,
or something like that.
Well, this has been
bean sprouts.
Really, really good. I love you, Daniel. Thanks for being the iron that sharpens my iron, or whatever. I don't know.
Iron sharpening iron. Yeah. I'll be
this
your
is good. So I've said all the things. So thanks for being here, everyone. Until next time, let's do all we can to make our lives more about Jesus.
Yes, and let's all treat each other just a little bit nicer, and yes, be more like Jesus. Amen.
Well, there you go. You can cut your stuff whenever you want. We're still live, but I'm going to cut that. Thanks for being here. Gloria and Brandy are in the chat. Don't make him What? Don't make him promises you can't keep, Alan? What did I say, Brandy?
Oh, no.
Oh, no. I'm in trouble with Brandy. Well, I still got you here, Brandy.
I think it's the hair growth. It's the hair growth.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Your studio stuff is awesome, Brandy. Thanks for sharing those like little pics from your studio. I think about you all week long, and I wish you all the best doing that stuff. And maybe I'll come for a beard trim one day. But I am growing it long. Did I tell you guys about my beard oil? Maybe I'll have to do that next time.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that next time.
Yeah, okay, cool. Anyway, thanks for being here on YouTube. You guys are all awesome.